Dragon, nice to see you. It's a beautiful Sunday morning here in Australia. I'm back home for a couple of days. Well, obviously we're halfway through our national tour, and then we head back up to Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So check out my Twitter, all the Crypto Australia, Facebook, all those events are in there. They start at 7 p.m. We had a huge 500 turnout in Sydney and Melbourne, Adelaide. We made the national news last night. So guys, it's exciting. Everything in the crypto space is bringing people together, which is fantastic to see. And obviously my mission to keep you guys as informed as possible about the best projects and navigate this space safely. We've got people tuning in from the US. It's great to see people from Belgium. So we've got about 150 odd watching now as well, which is fantastic. So I'll get started. So today I want to talk about a little bit about the history of ICOs, so how they came about, how they fit into the ecosystem. We'll talk about the future of ICOs, where it's all going, how to pick the good projects, what to watch out for as scams, and a few the stuff that's changing in this space as well. So the SEC are starting to crack down on what's a security versus a token and all those sort of things as well. So to start off with, a bit of the history. So ICOs have actually been around for a few years, but they really heated up last year, I guess, 2017, with so many projects launching on top of Ethereum. Ethereum saw its price appreciate greatly. It was probably the easiest platform to launch on. Now we have, Neo's launched a few ICOs, NEM has launched a few ICOs. There's a couple of other platforms as well. So certainly, I don't expect Ethereum to maintain that 100% market share basically it had last year. So others are going to come, and that's great. In this space, that I definitely think there's more than one winner in each use case in each industry. I hate it when people say this is better than this and that sort of thing. So, we've got, a number of projects we're looking at on different platforms now. So it's great, and you will need those different coins. So if something's launching on Neo, a lot of the time you'll need Neo. They prefer that native token. But in the past, some ICOs will let you contribute with Bitcoin or even dollars or euros. So you don't have to necessarily raise funds. And that's what an ICO is. So it's an initial coin offering. It's just a way for businesses to raise funds, and it reduces the barriers to entry rather than the traditional financing methods. So if I'm a tech startup, we normally have to source venture capital. So rich investors that, have traditionally invested in the tech sector, you've got to convince them of your business model. A lot of the time they'll want to have their say as well, and that's something that I've definitely noticed when I speak to a lot of these startups, that in some ways it's good, but you're trying to suck up to these people, and a lot of the time they'll say, well, I'll give you money if you change your business model to do this. A lot of the time they want a big discount to the traditional stock share price. So even in the ICO world now, we see these pre-ICOs and private sales before a pre-ICO, and then an ICO for the public. And we'll talk about which model is healthiest, because I certainly think that it's gone away from the best structure in some ways, whereas these big private venture capital companies are now trying to burst into the ICO space as well, and they're demanding 20-30% discounts, 50% discounts, bigger, and then they're sitting at a profit as soon as these things hit the market, and they can dump on the average investor. So that legacy system of IPOs and ways to raise money was a way for the rich to get richer. A lot of the time they're the ones that are seeing the greatest benefit, whereas I discuss and we spoke about a lot on our national tour, this is a decentralized revolution. We're trying to put the power back in the hands of the little guy and the smartest minds and the innovators, and they're the people we want driving the global economy and technology and innovation as we move forward. So if we can spread out this wealth to those that are genuinely interested and not have it in the hands of a few, that's the sort of thing we want to see in this space, and I'm sure you guys would agree on that as well. So Ripple was one of the first to have a sort of crowdfunding sale with the XRP token, Ripple Labs. We then had Ethereum in 2014 raised $18 million, which was the biggest ever at the time, and that was raised in Bitcoin. You sit back and think about that now with some of these companies with just a white paper raising $100 million, or even some now up into the billions that have only got sort of proof of concept and that sort of thing. They don't actually have a working product. It is scary, and we've got to be very selective with our money and what we're investing into now, and it's getting harder and harder to find quality projects with small market caps that are going to deliver the greatest returns. And obviously that's probably what I'm looking for mainly now. So back in 2016, we sort of had Digex. That was a very popular ICO. It sold out a lot quicker than what people were expecting. And then we had the DAO, and obviously after Digex sold out so quickly, so many people were saying, I'm not going to miss out again, and they raised $150 million very quickly. Now most of you will know the story about how that contract wasn't secure. The funds got drained, a lot of them, and before it could get stopped, and that led to a whole host of issues and debate, and I don't want to jump into that too much, and we end up having that hard fork Ethereum Classic span out of that and all that sort of thing. So, and then 2017, obviously last year, you guys know how many projects, if you look on etherscan.io or the tokens now, there's 23, nearly 24,000 ERC20 token contracts. Now ERC20 basically means if you're going to create a new cryptographic asset or token or whatever you want to call it on top of the Ethereum network, that ERC20 is basically a standard. So you can guarantee that it meets all these criteria, and that makes it a lot easier for developers to work with, for exchanges to list your coin. They basically know how it's going to function, and it meets those criteria. And that's what most people do these days. So again, if you're going to create a token and it's not up to those standards, then a lot of people are going to sort of ask why. So you'll see most of these assets as ERC20 token contracts in the ICO world. So the next thing I want to talk about, we've spoken about how traditionally it was sophisticated investors and it's breaking down that barriers to entry, but that can be a good and a bad thing. So a lot of projects now have got very little in the way of something to show. We spoke about how they can just have a white paper or just an idea, whereas previously we saw good companies launching with products, and they're probably ones that are going to be more successful. And there's a lot of tech savvy people in this space now, but maybe not as many business savvy people or those that have run a business in the real world and those sort of things. So again, it's one thing to have a fantastic development team and a great idea, but unless I use that saying, the rubber's got to hit the road. You need to partner with real world businesses in real world industries. You need to be solving a problem. If that industry is already chugging along nicely with partnerships, again, some of these people don't want disruption. There's legislation in place to stop disruption, and the powers that be don't want to see change. So you've got to really be showing benefit to people as well if you're breaking into this space. And with 24,000 contracts there, there's 2,000 coins. You guys know my thoughts that 90% or greater unfortunately aren't going to survive. So be picky with your money. The thing that we've been talking about lately is the need for why it's so important to be selective. So there's lots of scams out there. There's some that are just straight up scams that have no intention of building anything. Frauds, misleading people in different countries. The other thing that people forget is this is bleeding edge technology, so we're paving the way. We don't even know where this all goes, and issues come up. We've already seen things like Tezos, okay, raised $230 million and they've stumbled at the first hurdle. So I think sometimes people think that every single project they're investing in is just gonna succeed, and the fact is that that's not the case. The number of developers that are capable of working with these different programming languages is only a handful, and the good developers know they're going to get good money, and they might jump to another project if they started on one. And all these things are real world problems that people don't really think about when they see a flashy website or a cool white paper or a cool idea. a short YouTube clip, all those things. So do your due diligence. It only takes, a few different people's opinions and a bit of research. And how many times, guys, have we've done that, and our returns are well in excess of 1,000 or even 100x sometimes from taking the time to do that. So it is hard for the startups in the real world in the tech industry. So just keep all that stuff in mind. So next thing we'll talk about is how to participate. So a lot of beginners now are still concerned about how to send money in. So people are accidentally contributing to ICOs from an exchange. Now, please watch my video about my Ether wallet. In that video, I explain how the Ethereum blockchain works, how your coins live out there on the Ethereum blockchain, and all your tokens can live under that Ethereum address. They're on the blockchain. They're not on your computer or on your hardware wallet. They're out there on the blockchain, and you've got to control your private key. So that's what's on your hardware wallet. So please watch that video if you haven't already. I think it's just called My Ether Wallet Tutorial, clearly explained. But you're going to need a wallet where you control the private key, again, because if you participate in ICO and send them Ethereum or send them whatever currency, they want to know where to send your tokens back to. Now, some ICOs will have, and they'll say, tell us the address you're donating from, and tell us the address you want us to send your tokens to. But some won't. Some will just have one address that you're sending to and from, and where that's going to come back to. So just be aware of that. So often I get messages saying, hey, I accidentally sent Ethereum from Coinbase or from Bittrex, and the support tickets and the wait times, and if you're even going to get that back at all, guys, it's just such a hassle. So again, everything in this space comes back to education. It's going to save you money and stop you from making mistakes if you take the time to learn about all this stuff. So make sure you're sending from a wallet where you control the private key. So the next thing we'll talk about is legal jurisdiction. So it was a bit of a free-for-all there. We saw China sort of crack down, South Korea cracking down a bit, and while it's caused panic at the time, you guys know my overarching message was this is good. Frameworks, structure, rules and regulations, at the end of the day, it's bringing legitimacy to the space. We don't want this to blow up so big and all these scams start to implode and give crypto a bad name. We want everything, on the straight and narrow for this space to succeed. We wouldn't in the stock market have all these companies starting up left, right, and center and scamming people, and that's not healthy. So hopefully you guys agree with that somewhat, and you'll see certain projects starting up in different countries for different reasons. In stricter developed countries like Australia and the US, it's pretty hard. They are cracking down on tokens and investments that are securities versus a utility token. Now, a security, I guess the best comparison is it like shares? Are you investing in a percentage of the company with the hope that it's going to go up in value versus a utility token where it's actually got utility? You're trying to use that protocol and use that ecosystem compared to just investing in a percentage of the company. Now, that's a gross oversimplification. And on Coinbase here, under legal, they've got this security laws framework. They've got these sort of, a guide and this point scoring system from all available information on what may constitute a security versus a token. So, guys, I have advised a couple of projects now that are pre-ICO and ICOs and that. So I'm trying to help companies. And this is something that we have to consider. And the other thing that I always want to help companies with and talk about is ICO structure. So, as I mentioned about that, private sales, pre-ICOs, big whales getting on board early and getting better rates, that's not what we want. So the way that I recommend now, if I'm advising companies, is if you want it to be fair for the average guy, and especially these Australian companies that I've been helping lately, they're very much of that opinion. They want to help the little guy. They want a fair ICO. They don't want to make rich venture capitalists that don't really care about their project richer and more likely to dump on the market. So what you're seeing more now is whitelisting, so you've got to register. You'll probably have to upload some ID verification, so know your customer, anti-money laundering, all those laws in each country. You might have to whitelist your Ethereum address if it's an Ethereum ICO, so they know what address you're going to send from. And all those things are great. And the other thing we love is a cap. So $20,000 or 25, 30, 50, whatever it is, whatever they deem as fair as a maximum contribution amount. Now again, if that's not fully subscribed, if they don't get all as much as they want, then they maybe open up to a second round of the ICO with a bit more. But they want to give everyone in that first instance the chance to get in. And if it's popular and we have, if we have 10,000 people each owning a chunk of the company, it's better than 20 or 30 big whales that used to pay huge gas fees to get their transactions included first. Some people are paying in the orders of magnitude of thousands of dollars to push all your little transactions that might have a 20 cent or $1 gas fee. They're upping their gas. They're bullying around to get in first, I guess, guys. So that's the next thing that I think that I look for now when looking whether at ICO. So obviously we want to go do our full research about the team, the project, all those sort of things, but also ICO structure. It's no good being bullied around and big whales buying it all. Then we're fighting trying to buy it off them on exchanges when they're pushing up the price and getting rich. So guys, I guess that's just about everything that I wanted to cover. So I'll keep an eye on the questions here as it comes in. But yeah, I certainly think in a lot of ways when people ask, are we a bubble? It depends what aspect you're looking at. Is this technology being commonly used in our everyday lives by the majority of people? And the answer is clearly no. So I tweeted a photo the other day about technologies that have changed the world, and they have this exponential growth, but it stays at the top, guys. We keep using these technologies. We keep using the internet. The internet itself wasn't a bubble. It was a technology that was exciting, and we still use it in our everyday lives. We're witnessing exponential growth, but we've never been more interconnected. So again, maybe the price is getting ahead of itself. Maybe that's, we can argue that could become a bubble if we get too extended from where we're actually at in the current development of projects. And the other thing that can possibly be in a bubble is the number of ICOs. And as I've said, it's my opinion that we are to that stage already where there's too many projects raising too much money. All you need is a flashy website, a little YouTube clip, and a white paper, and people are throwing millions of dollars at you. So be selective with your funds, guys. Some people are telling me they're looking for what they want an ICO each week, John McAfee style and that sort of thing. In the real world, guys, how many leading companies are there? There's not going to be one a week new company that's going to be a great investment in the stock market world. Do you really think there's going to be 50 odd each year? So get your portfolio structured with what you're happy with. For some people it's a dozen coins. For some people it's less. Some people it's more. Really reshuffle that with what you're happy with, and realize that we're still early in this space. If you've got good coins, they're going to grow. You don't have to find a new coin every week just for the sake of it. And people are excited. They want to get involved in these ICOs. They've heard about huge returns. Overtrading is not a good thing. So any thoughts on HST? Guys, anything that has a huge run is going to have a pullback. Again, we saw it in Power Ledger. It ran very hard to $1, and a lot of people said it's too hard, too fast. As long as HST still have good announcements, I think they're looking to get listed on bigger exchanges. We need pullbacks. Stuff doesn't go up in a straight line. Investing isn't easy. So I haven't sold any HST. I still love it long term. Look at Google and Amazon. So yeah, we definitely are going to see, if we do see a crash in the entire space, most likely everything will get dragged down. But the good companies will survive and rise from the ashes. Hopefully we get to buy more of those good companies when they're on sale, if everything sells off. But yeah, it's a buying opportunity. Again, it comes back to education. If you're confident, you've got conviction that what you're buying isn't going to crash and never recover, then you're going to buy when there's blood in the streets. quality ICOs, I try and read up as much as I can from different opinions. Someone's asking me about EOS. I don't like their ICO structure being a year long. They're literally sitting on billions and billions of dollars of Ethereum now. How do you spend that money wisely as a startup? I think it's just a huge amount of money. Let's wait and see how their product goes once it scales and it's out there for the public to have a play around on. They've done great stuff in the past, there's no doubting that, but again, I think that's one where it's maybe getting a bit far ahead of itself. Blue Zell's a great project. Neo platform versus Eth. I've spoken about that a bit. They're slightly different. Neo's going for a lot of like assets and that sort of thing. The China link, I definitely think Ethereum and Neo can both be huge. I own them both. They've both done extremely well. B token, I'm looking at B token and Emphy, those travel sort of lodging ones as well. Guys, the next thing I will mention now is paid reviews. So it disappointed me the other day that quite a prominent YouTuber came out and said that his video about his most underrated coins, had been paid for, and we've seen in the past where people come out and say, sorry guys, apologise, that was a paid review. So guys, I get offered $10,000, $20,000 or more every day to cover shit coins, and I say no. So to me, my reputation and honesty, integrity is going to deliver more value in the long run. Now, we haven't covered every coin that gets hyped and excited about. I've been pretty selective in the coins I've covered on my channel. Nearly every one of those is up 1,000%. I think the two that are struggling are the ones with the banking issues and the banking licenses, 10x, and metal pay. So again, all those card issuers, anything that's trying to get a financial license has struggled. Other than that, every coin we've covered is set the world on fire. Now, I also said I'd be helping Australian projects. I got a bit of negative feedback about Bitcar. I still believe that's going to be a hugely popular coin. A lot of people think that it's just investing in Lambos and crypto, but those cars, those high-end cars perform extremely well in a crisis, and it's almost going to be another stable coin. So instead of parking in Tether, if there's a huge correction, some people are going to view those cars and that asset class as one of the most stable things in a correction or downturn. And if they can have a lot of liquidity and people can sit in those tokens when the crypto markets pull back, they're already talking about expanding into other sort of avenues and industries. So it's got half the Power Ledger team. So guys, I'll cover projects that I think are good investments, are good technologies, good Australian projects and companies. And while I think of it, there's been a lot of people asking about, is there anywhere we can buy, swap and sell and trade stuff in crypto? A bit of a sort of a Gumtree or an eBay of sorts. And I've got an Australian project that I'm meeting in person up in Brisbane this week that I've been working hard behind the scenes for a couple of years on their project, and I believe it's very close to launch. So if you're in Australia, I'm not sure if they're going to open this up internationally, but if you're in Australia, we might have a fantastic project for buy, swap and sell with crypto very soon, and I'll cover that on the channel if you guys are interested. So Make a Die, that's a fantastic stable coin again. INS ecosystem, yeah, another fantastic project. It's going to face those legacy industry issues in the real world, but INS one that I put a little bit into, and it's done extremely well when it's hit markets already. I think it's trading as high as $8, $9 or even $10 the other day. So guys, that's probably it for today. I hope that's answered a lot of your questions. Be careful out there in the ICO space. Everyone's out there to get your money. I'm sure you guys have experienced it where you get excited, then you read more and you maybe wish you hadn't have invested as much. So, becoming a good investor and building wealth over time, it's about not having large drawdowns and avoiding the bad ones. So hopefully you'll agree that the coins we've covered on the channel are the best of the best and have performed extremely well, and they're the ones that I'm trying to obviously bring to you in the future. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll talk to you again in the future. Cheers.